Well, thank you for joining us for Checkered Shorts podcast, a podcast with three fraternity brothers. And we're excited to have you here. This is our first podcast of the 2025 season and our first podcast ever. We are some 40 something men that took some while to figure out this technology, but I think we're underway. So we're going to start off just talking about what got us into racing and the background. And so we're going to start off with Pat, Mr. Pat Kelly.
Oh, starting with me. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's me and two good friends, like Keith said. Just our experiences. A few years ago, we started getting into racing. Well, Dinwiddie and I have been into racing, and then we kind of drug Keith into it. And now he's full-fledged fan. So I grew up kind of around it. Dinwiddie's I think could speak. He's got a little bit more knowledge than I do and a little bit more experience just because he's older. But I grew up with – yeah, right. My dad, mom took me to the track when I was a kid in the track. I mean, the 500 Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that's where I got the itch. And then high school and then after college, I really, really, really started getting into it back again. So yeah, the short of it, that's how I started doing it, and now I'm full-fledged, man.
And you will all notice we're all wearing our Kelly Landscaping hats because this podcast does have an official sponsor, and that is the Kelly Landscaping sponsorship. We're so grateful for that, Pat.
Cutting grass and kicking ass, man. That's our motto.
All right. Brian, why don't you share a little bit?
Yeah, so like Pat said, thank you all for tuning in. Just three guys chatting about Indy Car, three good friends, fraternity brothers. I'm Brian Dinwiddie. My background, my parents were big Indy Car fans, and so when I was born in the 1970s, unlike some of these other yahoos on here, they used to drag me down to 16th and Georgetown. I grew up just about an hour north of there, and so they bring me down and bring me to practice and attended my first race. We go back to 1978. In Milwaukee was my first IndyCar race, and then Indy 500 in '86 was my maiden voyage on race day to Indy. And then about 10 years ago, my wife and I and our kids moved into Speedway, so I live about a mile from the track. And when you're that close, you love every minute of it. I walk every morning, and I walk by the Speedway just to say hi and to look in those gates and see if any of those ghosts of Indy's past are hanging out. But love IndyCar. Really, the friendship I have with these two in the last few years since we started going to races together has really ramped that up, and enjoyed our experiences, and looking forward to an outstanding 2025.
Yeah, and myself, I call myself the newbie. Definitely found my way into IndyCar by not being able to say no. So I got convinced there was an extra ticket 3 seasons ago. Was my first IndyCar experience as an adult. I went in junior high to the Indianapolis 500 and was too young to really value the experience other than, holy cow, there's a lot of people here. But I knew it was a huge event from that. But again, these two guys drugged me out to Iowa for 2 days of racing. And you'll see by my shirt here, I'm a Pato guy. And they said I had to pick a racer. And so I have to admit, I thought for sure he was going to be an Irishman. But, still not disappointed because the first race I went to as an adult, I picked a racer and he won that very race.
He won it, yeah.
I got the itch pretty quick. Not only did I have a blast watching the race, great racing both days. Everyone kept telling me Joseph is going to own this race because he's the Oval King, and my guy Pato came out on top. So caught the bug pretty quickly. So what are we looking forward to let's go backward in time. We talked about that first Iowa race. What are the races we've attended together, either the three of us or the two of you guys together?
Oh, goodness. So if we go back and think about that, obviously, Pat and I have been attending Indy, both qualifications and the race for several years and run into each other there. We have seats in different areas during the race, but we've been doing that. And then he and I decided we were going to go somewhere else and watch a race. So back in 2020, we were going to head to Richmond, and that ended up getting canceled. And so the next year, we were like, okay, we were going to do that. Let's find another place. And so when we saw the original doubleheader coming back to Iowa, we made the decision we would go. And so we started recruiting some people, and somebody backed out, and we said, hey, Keith, what are you doing middle of July? Want to go spend 3 days with us in 95-degree heat in the middle of a cornfield and watching some racing. And so that was kind of our first trip together. And then let's see, since then we've gone back to Iowa each year. Last year we hit Milwaukee, the three of us, and then we've also done Gateway, I guess, or whatever we call that, Worldwide Technology Raceway.
I call it
St. Louis. Yeah. We've done that a couple years. And then last year, Pat and I were able to make a last-minute call to head down to Nashville for the season finale, which was a pretty amazing event as well. So, that's kind of where kind of the summary of where we've been the last few years. I don't think I missed anything there.
No. Couple surprises. Milwaukee was awesome. Nashville turned out to be great for especially last minute. Gateway's good. I mean, it's closest to us in Indy. So yeah, I mean, any chance we can get to go to any of those is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I also got to reflect back on my first trip. I know it's not normal to be able to have all access passes to the pits as well. So again, that was something that really got me hooked pretty quick. When you get down there and you get to see all the technology, you get to see the teams. One thing I think is really cool, I've been to a ton of sporting events in my life, but the drivers and the crews of Indy Car are very accommodating, super nice, very approachable. And, you can ask questions, they'll interact with you. So for me, it just made for an amazing race experience for my first time. And then also, we were just kind of commiserating that Iowa won't have the big concerts this season. They do still have 2 great days of racing, so we're excited to go do that as well. But between having the all access back passes, seeing my chosen racer win the first race, seeing some top notch concerts, and then getting to spend the time with really, really good friends, made it a no brainer that I was going to become a pretty diehard pretty quick.
We're glad to have you. We need more. IndyCar needs more in that. I think to your point about, I mean, you can go up to any driver and get an autograph, get a picture. They welcome it. They're coached to this. IndyCar wants this. It's the best part about it is you can get right next to them, especially at a St. Louis. I mean, they can't run and hide like they can at IMS.
Yeah.
You know where their coach is and you know where their pit stall is, and they have to go from point A to point B. Dinwiddie and I have been from Andretti to, I mean, some NXT guy that we don't know. We're like, yeah, can you get a picture with us? And they're like, yes. So that's the coolest part. One of the coolest parts for sure is you are right there. Remember Keith, St. Louis? We're, I think, accidentally still on pit road during the national anthem.
Yeah, I got to sing the national anthem standing directly behind Pato's car with the crew. It was a blast. Speaking of being able to access people at IndyCar, we also have some great stories meeting up with the new and current president of IndyCar.
That's right. There's not a better person, not a better promoter in the world for IndyCar and racing in general than Doug Bowles. And so I, for one, am super excited to see that his role expand. I don't know how he's going to manage it, but I have a personal connection. I worked for many years with his sister, and I know that Doug is that kind of guy who, he puts everything he's got into everything he does. And obviously he's done that at IMS. I know when he got the president of IMS, that job, that was his dream job. And he never saw it going any farther than that. So now And I know he spends, he's one of those guys that's an 18 to 20 hour a day guy. And so how he's going to manage this with IndyCar, I don't know. And you hear everybody talk about that, but knowing Doug, he'll make it work. And I know he's still going to be the person that's going to be out there amongst the fans and making those connections. You're going to see him because that's just who he is.
It was cool. The picture we have with him, I think he has a tie on, right? And so there's an article, I think I don't know if it's an article or I saw it on Twitter or whatever, but now that he's with IndyCar officially, he says he's going to get like down and dirty. I don't know if that's the official quote, but he's going to lose the tie.
Nice.
So he's a little bit, I don't know if it's more relaxed, but just more like involved and really going to do this. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and maybe that started last year with the race at Milwaukee when we saw him sitting right there with the fans.
Yeah,
and then caught up with them just outside the track.
Yeah,
and again, it was great that someone gave you that time. It's super friendly.
It is really incredible. You wouldn't think that they don't have to do it. You wouldn't think that they'd want to do it, but they do. From start to finish, from, like I said, cameraman to highest guy on the totem pole, they'd all stop and BS and chit chat with you.
Another thing
that goes to the radio network as well. I was at St. Louis last year, and Mark Jaynes and Nick Yeoman stopped, and we had nice chats with each of them. They get like they need fans, and that's a piece. You mentioned, the drivers know that they're, Alexander Rossi, who has a great personality, but can be pretty quiet. But I've even heard him say on his podcast with Hinch that like that's their role, and like he'll never walk past anybody because he knows how important it is, how important we the fans are to the world and to their success. So good point.
Yeah, and we do a lot of our traveling when we go to attend races. It's kind of a guy's trip. But one thing that I also witness a lot of those places, which is important to me as a father, is going to a race day for IndyCar is a very safe experience. You see kids and families. Again, the drivers are so interactive. If you want to see a kid get hooked on something, take them down there and let them introduce them to some drivers. It'll be a great experience for them. Speaking of little ones, we got one hopping on the podcast.
Come on. This is totally illegal. Say hi.
Hi.
She's eating watermelon. All right. Bye-bye.
So another thing I think we wanted to touch on through this process, through the 2025 season, we're also going to be talking about the Grid Rivals contracts, fantasy sports. Currently, we have a league. I hope other people are taking advantage of that. It's set up a little differently than most fantasy sports that I've ever participated in. And there are some great tutorial videos, though, that Grid Rivals has put out. But it's still a wait and see game for me as I'm trying to manage my teams. So,
yeah, you're not going to give any hints today, Keith or Pat, on who.
It's a crapshoot, man. Especially everybody, if you follow IndyCar, you know who you think is going to be good at St. Pete, but the way Grid Rivals is doing it, it's pretty interesting.
The minimum signing, you have 3, right? 3 races.
No, you can sign them to 1 race. The maximum's
5.
5, but then you lose your racer after. So if you pick them for 5, you lose them for the 6th. You can't pick them. And the 6th is Indy, by the way, FYI. So you have $100 million. Not that number means anything. But you equivalent it to 10 points, but you only have so many. But it's I've watched the videos and I say they did a pretty good job. But it's going to be interesting to see how this actually. It's not pick 1, 2, and 3 as other fantasy points go. It's there's a lot more involved in this. How many we get 6 drivers, right?
6 drivers.
6. I haven't watched any of those videos. I retired from fantasy sports about 5 years ago. This has pulled me back out. I hope that addiction doesn't come back here. So, yeah, I'm
cool.
I need to watch some of those videos because
it's cool. It's totally different. There are, ranks, tiers, I guess, as some of the other fantasy IndyCar leagues I've been in, but it's still you gain more money. If you win, you lose more. So, and then you have and your allotment shrinks or gets bigger. It's not explaining it great, but it's
I'm gonna go ahead and share my picks, which
okay.
it's
welcome, ladies.
Yeah,
I got mine pulled right up here. I'm waiting to see what you did, Keith.
So a no-brainer. You got to go with Alex. You got to go with Alex, right? So right away.
I mean, see, I didn't.
He's the high dollar man.
He's a high dollar man, but I felt like I got value on the bottom end, so I'm gonna go top then bottom. What cost me the most and what cost me the least. So
he's the new guy. Remember,
DeFrancesco.
Okay, yeah, Devlin.
Devlin.
Yeah, say he was my bottom. So I go back up to my highest dollar. Then I had Herta.
Okay,
and then I picked up, Indy's favorite son, Daly.
Connor.
Yeah. And then I did this.
Favorite guy.
I must have done this subconsciously, Pat, because I didn't realize if you sign him for 5, they set the 6. So I signed Pato for 5 because he's my guy. But I think it's probably going to help him cross that.
Okay.
Cross the finish line this time and actually pull it off this year at Indy. So, and then someone we met at Iowa who, he's got like a lion's heart for a little guy, Ferrucci.
Oh, Santino.
Yeah, that was cool. Ferrucci, it's wait and see. This is
our meeting with him. Our meeting with him was fun and genuine. It was a really good meeting.
It was. I remember saying to him, "I'm like, hey man, it's really cool. Like watching this concert with you.
Yeah,
nobody else knows who in the hell you are. It's so cool." And I was like, that doesn't like. I'm not like making fun of you. I was like, I think it's just really awesome. He's like,
because we were taking pictures and someone said, "Who is that?" I said, "Well, that's Pat's little brother."
Yeah, right. I was like, it's cool that we're just chilling next to you and nobody knows who you are except for the 3 of us, really. So yeah.
All right, I can give mine next. Feel me too.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's hear it.
I don't want to give away any secrets, but I think this is the winning lineup. So I'll start with my top 3, and I think these 3 have all been very proven on street courses, and specifically St. Pete. So I'll go with McLaughlin, number 1, Scotty Max.
I bet you are 3 of
them. I think this is a championship year for Scotty Mack, and I think he's going to start it off right here at St. Pete.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take 2 Andretti boys after that. I'm going to take Colton, just like you did, Keith, and then Kyle Kirkwood firing in right behind him. I think
it's going to show everybody for the record. I didn't cheat.
You didn't copy.
Let's see who else you got there.
All right, so I'll do my bottom 3 because those are my top 3. Can we do that?
All right, and then I'll show you. I probably have the same bottom 3. Let's see.
We know how Pat got out of 6th grade, cheating off his neighbor.
Right. So then I went Armstrong.
Bingo.
Then I went Malukas.
Nope. No, I'm saving Davey for ovals.
And then I went VK.
Okay, that's not bad. So I went with the super bargain pick for my bottom guy. And I don't know what Primo's going to do this year, but I'm a big, in fact, you know this, I'm a big Callum Ilott fan, and so at 3.5 mil out of that 100 mil you get, I thought that's a super value, and then that left me with enough money to take Fro off the board. So I'm gonna fire with Rosenquist and Armstrong from
he's got to produce, from
Meyer Shank, and I think this is it's the contract year for Fro, so he's got to prove himself, and I feel pretty good about that lineup.
All right. Yeah, no. I have $5.4 million to spend.
I only got 1.1.
So you're doing better.
I blew it all.
I'm at 2.5 as well.
See, but I think that's still in your bank. So if VK wins, his dollars go up. So I'll have more in my bank then. So that's it. Again, folks, it's an interesting way to do fantasy. Totally different.
Yeah, and also we want to assure you, as you saw in the intro, we consider this a short form, digestible podcast. So we're going to keep to that promise, and we're going to sign off of this first ever Checkered Short podcast. We want to thank Kelly Landscaping, our sponsor, and definitely want to thank Pat and Brian for entertaining this idea for us to extend the fun that we've been having on the track to outside the track.
Keith, thanks. We better thank Keith for putting this all together and recording and telling us to get microphones and stuff and all the professional side of all of this. So, looking forward to it.
There.
It's three dudes that like racing. I think we can drink beers together and still do this and have fun. The races that we attend this season, and looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. So follow along. Hope you like it.
Don't expect this to be the place that's like super media heavy. These are three fans that just want to share the love of IndyCar with the rest of you out there. So, 100%. And we're gonna share it from a fan's perspective. So,
100%.
All right, thank you. And it is race week, so let's go racing.
Let's go racing.
All right.
See y'all.